They thought firing me would be simple. One cold meeting. One cardboard box. One forgotten name. But what they didn't realize was that I didn't just work at Harper Machinery. I was Harper Machinery. 18 years of late nights, of keeping the gears turning when everyone else had gone home. 18 years of fixing mistakes no one even knew they'd made. 18 years of building a foundation so strong, they thought it could survive without me. Spoiler, it couldn't. When they pushed me out to make room for new ideas, they weren't just losing an employee. They were tearing out the roots of the very tree they thought they could climb higher. What happened next wasn't revenge. It wasn't anger. It was something far more powerful. It was a reminder that when you build something the right way, with grit, loyalty, and your bare hands, it never truly belongs to the people who sign the checks. It belongs to the people who gave it life. And now, it was time to show them what they lost. When I first walked into Harper Machinery, I wasn't anyone special. No fancy degree. No powerful connections. Just a man who knew how to build, not with spreadsheets or buzzwords, but with two hands and a stubborn sense of pride. Charles Harper, the founder, gave me a simple mission. Keep the machines running. Keep the people honest. And always, do the job right, even when no one's watching. For 18 years, that's exactly what I did. I stayed late when the production lines jammed at midnight. I patched systems together with nothing but duct tape and know-how when budgets were tight. I trained kids who barely knew which way a wrench turned, watched them grow into master technicians with families of their own. I wasn't chasing promotions. I wasn't chasing applause. I was building something real, a legacy made of reliability, of loyalty, of quiet excellence. And here's the thing no MBA class will ever teach you. You can't measure legacy in quarterly reports. You feel it in the trust people give you, when they know that if you're on the job, it'll get done right. That was the foundation we laid. Solid. Steady. Invisible to the executives, but everything depended on it. But the thing about invisible foundations is, when you rip them out without knowing, everything above starts to crumble. And that, as they were about to learn, was just the beginning. It happened on a Wednesday. A day like any other, gray skies, the smell of machine oil heavy in the air, the quiet hum of production lines spinning behind the walls. Vanessa, Charles's daughter, called me into her office. I thought it was another meeting about equipment upgrades or staffing schedules. I was wrong. She didn't waste time. "We don't need old men like you dragging us down," she said, flipping her hair like she was swatting a fly. No gratitude. No acknowledgement. Not even a decent goodbye after 18 years of keeping the heart of the company beating. I just smiled, not because I wasn't hurt, but because I knew something she didn't. As I packed my things into a cardboard box, my son's old coffee mug, a photo of my late wife Linda, the plaque from Charles for outstanding service, I realized. Sometimes the people you save the most will be the ones who turn around and erase you first. The younger staff avoided my eyes. Some were kids I had trained from scratch. But none dared to speak, and I didn't blame them. They were scared. They didn't realize yet what it costs when you tear out the roots that held everything together. I walked to my truck with the box tucked under my arm, the building towering behind me like a stranger's house. And as I sat behind the wheel, a thought settled heavy in my chest. They think this is over. But it's not over. Not by a long shot. Because when you build something with your bare hands, when it's in your blood and your bones, you don't walk away just because someone tells you to. You fight for it. Quietly. Relentlessly. When I got home that day, I didn't rage. I didn't call old friends to vent. Instead, I poured a cup of black coffee, sat at the kitchen table where Linda and I used to plan our weekends, and pulled out a dusty file folder. Inside was my original employment contract. The one Charles Harper had personally signed, back when a handshake still meant something. I flipped through the pages, knowing exactly what I was looking for. Section 14, Paragraph B. A clause that most people had probably forgotten. But not me. Because Charles had written it in himself. In the event of termination without documented cause, employee shall be entitled to a severance of 24 months' salary, payable immediately upon demand. Not 6 months. Not a polite handshake and a thank you card. 2 full years. It was Charles's way of protecting the people he trusted most, back when loyalty wasn't just a slogan printed on the walls. And Vanessa? She was too busy modernizing to even check what deals her father had made to protect the very foundation she was bulldozing. As I sat there, contract spread out in front of me, a different feeling stirred. Not anger. Not even pride. Certainty. They thought they could erase me like a line item on a spreadsheet. But they'd forgotten the first rule of building anything that lasts. Respect the people who know how it was built. Tomorrow, I wasn't going back with anger. I was going back with a copy of that contract, and the quiet weight of inevitability. The next morning, I walked into Harper Machinery not with fury, but with a quiet confidence. In my hand was the contract. In my mind was 18 years of memories, and the knowledge that they had underestimated the wrong man. Harold Preston, my lawyer, was already waiting for me in the conference room. Buttoned up, calm, the kind of man who'd seen 100 corporate battles and knew patience always outlasted bluster. Vanessa walked in 5 minutes late, a coffee in one manicured hand, annoyance flashing across her face the moment she saw me. Behind her, a young corporate attorney, fresh out of law school, armed with buzzwords but little real power. "Mr. Rowe," Vanessa said crisply, "we're prepared to offer you 6 months' severance as a gesture of goodwill." Harold didn't even look up. He simply slid the contract across the table, highlighting the clause in neon yellow. 2 years. Non-negotiable. The room went silent. Vanessa's lips tightened. "You're trying to bleed this company dry." I smiled, soft and steady. "No. I'm just asking you to honor the deal your father made. Because some agreements aren't just legal, they're personal. They're promises written in trust, not ink." The young attorney whispered urgently to her. Harold leaned back, hands folded neatly, waiting. It took less than 20 minutes for the dam to break. They agreed. Full severance. Immediate payment. But that wasn't the real victory. As I walked out of that room, contract tucked neatly under my arm, I knew the bigger battle was still ahead. Not about money, but about rebuilding something better. Over the next few weeks, the cracks Vanessa had tried to paper over became impossible to hide. Production delays. Quality control failures. Major clients, ones I personally helped bring in and keep loyal for years, started pulling their contracts without a second glance. The numbers told the story better than any speech could. Revenue down 37%. Late deliveries up 52%. Employee turnover hitting an all-time high. Every system I had carefully built, the vendor relationships, the maintenance schedules, the training programs, was unraveling faster than anyone could control. It wasn't just about experience being lost. It was about losing the heartbeat of the company, the quiet knowledge that kept operations running smoothly behind the scenes. I heard from old colleagues almost daily. Thomas from engineering. Jennifer from quality control. Jason from programming. Each had the same grim message. "It's falling apart, Stanley. And no one at the top even sees it happening." There's a lesson here that's bigger than Harper Machinery, bigger than any one company. When leadership trades wisdom for ego, when they confuse fresh paint with a solid foundation, eventually, the house will crumble. And that crumble was just beginning. I wasn't celebrating, though. Because good people, people I'd mentored, laughed with, trusted, were being hurt by decisions they had no part in making. That's when I realized. It wasn't enough to win my own fight. If we wanted to save something of what we had built, we needed to act, and fast. While Harper Machinery stumbled, a different vision quietly took root. Across town, in a modest industrial park, Cornerstone Precision was coming to life. The name wasn't chosen by accident. Cornerstones are the first stones laid when building something meant to last, solid, deliberate, foundational. Exactly the kind of operation Thomas, Jennifer, Jason, and I wanted to create. No corporate fluff. No flashy slogans. Just real craftsmanship. Real people. Real results. Douglas Klein, a seasoned investor with a nose for opportunity, believed in our mission. He offered seed funding and, more importantly, stayed out of the way, trusting those who actually knew how to build. Within weeks, machines were being installed. Designs were being finalized. Old teammates walked through the new facility, wide-eyed but hopeful, carrying the spirit of Harper's best days with them. I remember walking the empty production floor one evening after the electricians had left, listening to the echo of my own footsteps. The smell of fresh-cut steel and new beginnings filled the air. This wasn't just a comeback. It was a quiet revolution, led not by vengeance, but by the stubborn belief that when you respect your roots and nurture your people, great things grow. And the best part? We weren't just building a company. We were building a future, one that honored every calloused hand, every late night, every small win that had been ignored by those chasing the next big thing. 6 months later, the phone rang. It was Charles Harper. His voice was different, quieter, heavier. The once proud builder of Harper Machinery was now watching his life's work unravel. Vanessa's push for modernization had driven away loyal employees, ruined supplier relationships, and eroded customer trust faster than anyone could have imagined. "We need to talk," he said. That night, we sat in Charles's living room, a place filled with memories of better times, awards on the walls, photos of the first machines he ever sold. He wasn't calling to scold. He wasn't calling to beg. He was calling because he knew, sometimes, to save the house, you have to call the builder who laid the first brick. The next weeks were a blur. Board meetings. Negotiations. Tense conversations where the old guard and the new leadership clashed. And then came the moment no one thought would happen. Cornerstone Precision merged with Harper Custom Hydraulics. Not a hostile takeover. Not a bitter revenge. But a rescue mission, guided by the steady hands of people who remembered what made Harper great in the first place. Standing in the newly combined factory floor, watching teams old and new collaborate under one roof, I realized something. Sometimes, you don't have to destroy the past to build the future. You just have to honor it, and be brave enough to plant something better when the time comes. Looking back now, I realize this story was never just about contracts or boardroom battles. It was about value. It was about loyalty. It was about remembering that real strength isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's built quietly, one steady decision, one honest handshake at a time. We rebuilt Harper Machinery, not into the company it used to be, but into something stronger, a place where wisdom and innovation weren't enemies, but partners. A place where experience wasn't seen as an obstacle, but as the foundation for growth. I walk the production floor every morning now, nodding to teams made up of young talent working side by side with seasoned veterans. Not one replacing the other, but each lifting the other higher. The machines hum. The work hums. And somewhere in that symphony of gears and purpose, I find peace. Here's the truth I learned, etched deeper than any steel beam we've ever forged. You can't fake legacy. You can't shortcut trust. You have to build it. Day by day. Decision by decision. Brick by brick. And if you ever find yourself forced out, underestimated, or forgotten, don't just fight to survive. Fight to build something better. When they told me I was too old, too traditional, too stuck in the past, I almost believed them. Almost. But the truth is, your worth isn't defined by the latest title under your name. It isn't measured by who's sitting at the top of the org chart, or who decides to erase you from a meeting invite. Your real value, your true worth, is written in the systems you build, the teams you nurture, the trust you earn, and the hands you steady when storms hit. Charles knew it. The old Harper Machinery was built with it. Cornerstone Precision was reborn because of it. And if no one else recognizes it, you still must. Because there will be moments in your life when someone will try to tell you that you're replaceable. That your years of experience are a liability, not an asset. That what you've built doesn't matter. When that moment comes, I hope you remember this. Your real worth isn't up for negotiation. It's in every life you've touched, every bridge you've built, and every foundation you've laid for those who come after you. So stand tall. Stand quietly if you must. But stand knowing that you have something no spreadsheet can measure and no one can take away. Because in the end, what you build with your own 2 hands and your own 2 decades will outlast all the noise. In the end, this story isn't just about contracts or corporate battles, it's about knowing your true worth when others try to discount it. I've learned that value isn't given, it's proven, lived, and earned over time. You don't need a title to validate your impact, and you certainly don't need permission to protect what you've built. Sometimes losing a job, a position, even a legacy, is the first step toward building something even stronger on your own terms. If today's story resonated with you, remember, your experience, your dedication, your integrity, they matter. Don't ever let short-sighted people define your long-term value. If you enjoyed this journey, please like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe to stay inspired. There are more stories to tell, and more lessons we'll learn together.